Here we go, 7th grade. This is an awesome lesson. Absolutely fantastic. I know you're going to like it. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of algebra, the tougher questions, the ones you've been waiting for. This is solving two-step equations. And if you would like to guess how many steps it takes to solve these equations, the answer is 2. So let's start with a little bit of vocab here, guys. Not really vocab, I guess, just some notes. 6.4 notes. There are 3 S's of solving equations. Here they are. I'm going to call these the 3 S's. First S is to simplify the expression on both sides of the equal sign. Okay. Step 2 is to separate the variable terms from the constant terms using addition or subtraction. Very important here. Third step is to solve the equation using multiplication or division. So the 3 steps of solving equations tomorrow in class, I need you to know this. The steps are simplify, separate, solve. Say that to yourself 100 times tonight. Simplify, separate, solve. Simplify, separate, solve. Simplify, separate, solve. Are you ready? Me too. Let's take a look. Example number 1, solve it and check it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my train tracks. I'm going to draw them a little bit longer this time because it takes a little bit more work, a little bit more steps to solve a 2-step equation. So the 3 S's are simplify, separate, solve. Let's talk about that first S, simplify. So we look over here on the left side of the equal sign and we see if we can simplify that side. Well, guys, I hate to break it to you. These are not like terms, so I cannot simplify. How about over here on the right side? Only one term, can't be simplified. So my first S is finished. Don't worry, we will do problems that need to be simplified in the future in the next lesson. After simplifying, or trying to simplify, we need to separate. And what that means is that we need to get all of our variable terms to one side of the equal sign and all of our constant terms to the other. So what I like to do here is I like to choose a variable side and a constant side, and that helps me a little bit solve these problems. So this is where my variable is. So this is going to be the variable side of my equation. Go ahead and put a little letter V up there. This side does not have any variables on it, so this is going to be my constant side. Wonderful. Put a C up there. So I look at my variable side and I say, which one of those terms does not belong? Well, it's the plus 10. This 10 is a constant. It belongs on the constant side, so I have to get rid of that plus 10. And to do that, I need to do the inverse operation. The inverse of plus is minus, so I'm going to subtract 10 from the variable side. And guess what, guys? I'm going to subtract 10 from the constant side as well. Got to keep it balanced. So 10 minus 10, 0, gone. We are left with 15m on the variable side. Bring down your equal sign, and we are left with 45 on the constant side. So far, so good. Now, the second S was to separate. So all of my variable terms are on the variable side, all of my constants are on the constant side, so my separate step is done. Now I have to solve, and solving is the same thing we've been doing since 6.1 and 6.2 and 6.3. It's just getting your variable isolated. So over here, this is my variable side. I need to get rid of that 15. This is a multiplication problem, so I'm going to use division to get rid of it. So I'm going to divide both sides by 15. 15 divided by 15 is 1m, which is what I want. Only one lonely m there. 45 divided by 15 is 3. So my solution here is m equals 3. Did you see the 2 steps? First step was subtraction. Second step was division. Then we got our final answer. So let's go ahead and do our check. To do the check, you have to take that 3 and substitute in for m. So our check is going to take a little bit longer too. I'm not going to let you do these checks all in one step, guys, especially when we get some negatives going on here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take 2 steps to simplify the left-hand side. No big deal. First, we multiply. That's the order of operations, right? Multiplication comes before addition. 15 times 3 is 45. Copy the rest of the problem down. Even the equal sign, even the 55. Copy it all. Now we can go ahead and we can simplify this by adding those 2 terms together. 45 plus 10 is 55. Bring down your 55 on the right-hand side, and we are super happy because they are equal, which means my solution is correct. Want to see another one? Of course you do. So basically the same thing here, a little bit trickier, tiny bit trickier, guys and gals. We're going to go through this a little bit faster this time. So first, we draw our train tracks a little bit longer than we did in the previous lessons. Now we need to name a variable side and a constant side. Well, this time my variable's on the right side, so my variable side is the right and the constant side is the left. Next, we look and we say, hey, which one of these terms does not belong on the variable side? The variable side, well, this is a variable term right here, so that is in its perfect spot. We need to get rid of this 34. Now, this is a positive 34. To get rid of that 34, we have to subtract 34. Goodbye, Mr. 34. Subtract 34 from the left, keep it balanced on the right. Now check this out. 34 minus 34 is 0, so that term is gone. On the right-hand side, I have negative 6b still in play. Don't forget your negative, right? It was a minus sign in the problem, but now it's a negative sign in the term. Bring your equal sign down. 70 minus 34 is 36. So that was my separate step, right? Getting my variable terms to one side, my constant terms to the other. I am separated because I only have one term on each side, so that means I can do my third S, which is to solve. So solving means I have to isolate the variable. This is negative 6 times b, so I've got to use division to get rid of that negative 6. Divide both sides by a negative 6. These guys cancel out. We're left with one positive b all by itself. 36 divided by negative 6. Let's start with our sign. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. 36 divided by 6 is 6. I am fairly confident in that answer, but I would feel super confident if I did my check. So take your equation, substitute negative 6 in place of b. So that's 34 minus 6 times negative 6 in parentheses. Don't forget those parentheses come in super handy here, guys. Now, multiplication comes before subtraction. So I'm going to actually take this, I'm going to treat this as a negative 6, and I'm going to say negative 6 times negative 6. A negative times a negative is a positive. I'm going to put a plus sign here. 6 times 6 is 36. I have used both of those signs, so I don't drag anything down into the problem with me. Negative times a negative is a positive. There's my plus sign. Okay? Bring the 34 down into the problem. Bring the 70 down as well. Still have to do some addition to simplify here. 34 plus 36 equals 70. And bring your 70 down. And I have an equal check, which makes me happy. And that tells me that my solution is correct. Last one. Franz. Franz needed to take his car to the garage for work. The cost was $45 per hour. Per is a multiplication word, guys. Just pick up on that right away. $45 per hour. So I'm thinking multiplication here. To work on the car plus, oh, there's a nice addition word, plus $600 for parts. Franz's total bill was $780. Was is a good word, right? That's a variation of is, so that's probably my equal sign right there. So how many hours of labor were spent working on the car? Let's start with a verbal model, shall we? So we start off here with labor. They're going to have to pay for labor, and we're going to have to pay for parts, and that's going to get me my total. Your verbal model might look a little bit different than mine. That's okay, but that's how my brain works for this one. I know that I have to pay for labor. That's the cost for somebody to work on my car, plus the parts. So there's my equation, labor, my verbal model rather. Labor plus parts equals the total cost. Labor, it tells us the labor, the work, was $45 per hour. And we don't know how many hours they worked on the car, so that's going to be my variable. So the labor is $45 per hour. Check that out. Boom. Now we also have to pay for parts. Do we know the cost of the parts? Yes, we certainly do. We pay $600 for parts. And that equals the total cost of $780. So that little verbal model really does help us out here, guys. I encourage you to do that, kind of bridge the gap between the math and the English. All right, so I've got a nice two-step equation here. I'm going to work a little bit quickly through this. Simplify first. We cannot simplify this side because we don't have like terms. So we're going to go right to the separate step. Separate, this is my variable side because that's where the variable is. This is my constant side. What doesn't belong on the variable side? It's this constant right here. How do I get rid of a plus 600? Well, I do the inverse operation and I subtract 600. I do that to both sides to keep it nice and balanced. Okay, excuse me. I have 45h left on the variable side and 180 left on the constant side. So one term on the variable side, one term on the constant side. That means I have finished the separate step and now I have to solve. And over here I've got 45h. That means I have to divide both sides by 45 to isolate my variable h. That leaves me with 1h, and 180 divided by 45 is 4. Trust me on that one. You can check my math if you'd like. 4. Now, I do have to do a little check here. I already don't have tons and tons of space, so I'm going to write it a little on the small side. 45h, so 45 times 4 plus 600, and I'm hoping to get 780. That's smushed. I'm very sorry. All right, multiplication first. 45 times 4 is 180 plus 600. I'm still hoping to get that 780. Add them up. 180 plus 600 is 780. And both sides are equal. That tells me that I'm very, very happy here with my solution. Okay, this is a word problem, so the best thing for us to do right now is to take 2 quick seconds to write an answer sentence, and we are going to say that Franz paid for 4 hours of labor. Right? H was our variable. We used that for our hours. So there's our answer sentence. Okay, my friends, you're doing awesome. Go ahead and try those practice problems. Do the best you can do. Ask any questions tomorrow in class. See ya.